Good afternoon. My name is Tire2. I'm the CEO of Drive Innovation Hub for Smart Mobility from Israel. I'm very happy to be here and to moderate the panel of From Startups to Tier 2. Together with me, three wonderful people from around the world, from Europe and the US. And let's start from a short introduction round. Let's start with you, Liz Curtin, Executive Director from AutoTech Console. Hi.
Hi, thanks for having me. So I'm Liz Curtin. I run the AutoTech Council. We are a community of car makers and tier ones who are always looking for new startup technologies, new startup partners. We get together every month, and in the previous world, it was in person in Silicon Valley. For the past year and a half, it's been in our virtual meeting rooms and our virtual lounges, but we still look at companies every month, probably 500 companies a year. And a lot of those companies end up with deals, whether that's funding or partnerships or co-development projects. So we're really happy to be part of the ecosystem of innovation that's getting mobility into the future.
Great, thank you very much. So let's stay in the US. Hello, Mark Rasmussen, COO of California Mobility Center.
Morning, thank you for having me. Yeah, my name's Mark Rawson. I'm with the California Mobility Center. We're a new organization, nonprofit here in Sacramento, California. Our mission is to help accelerate commercialization of on and off highway mobility solutions, products, and services, as well as support companies providing smart infrastructure, smart charging, for example, into the marketplace. We've been in existence for about 2 years. My background actually comes out of the power and energy industry. I've been working in research, technology development, and commercialization for almost 30 years. So I'm excited to be here and participate in EcoMotion's event. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much, Mark. And let's cross the ocean. Jurgen, Managing Director, Co-Pace of Continental. Hi.
Yeah, hello, Itai. Yeah, my name is Jurgen Bilo. I'm with Co-Pace, the startup organization of Continental. So basically, we are an arm of Continental. Continental, we are doing rubber business, tires and technical rubber, as well as automotive components, systems, services, what have you. Yeah, I'm a company veteran, you could say. I headed a business within Continental, also lived in the US 3.5 years. Before this task now, I headed strategy and innovation for the CTO or in the CTO office. Yeah, we as Co-Pace, we are all over the world, in Silicon Valley, in Boston, so East Coast, Israel, Shanghai, Singapore, and of course in Europe, here in Germany. So we have a worldwide network and try to leverage the worldwide startup ecosystem, basically.
Great, thank you very much and welcome. So we have a lot of experience in this panel, and I want to start, for the startups that hear us in this panel, it's open question to all of you guys. And what do you will recommend for an early stage startups that wishes to become a successful OES? What is, the key milestone you think they should pass to secure their success? Let's start with you, Mark.
Yeah, I guess there's kind of 4 readiness factors that I would advise them on to make sure they're successful. One is in the technology space. Is their technology ready to meet the needs of the customer that they're targeting? The other aspect or dimension would be business ready. Is their business plan sound? Do they have the right leadership in place for for their company to go to that next stage? I think the third dimension would be requirements. are their products or services positioned to meet any federal, state, or local regulatory requirements in order to be put into the market? And I think the fourth dimension might be market entry. Is their strategy sound in terms of how they're going to enter the market, and as it relates specifically to engaging as an original equipment supplier? Do they understand the end-use customer that they're trying to target in terms of their strategy for entry?
Great, thank you. I hope the startups are writing this. It's important. So Liz, back to you.
Well,
What
you
do
know,
recommend?
I have seen startups succeed in so many different ways. So I would agree with Mark that there are many different kind of hurdles that you need to pass, and eventually you're going to have to do all four of those that Mark mentioned. But I don't think you do need to do them all at the same time, and I don't think you need to worry if you don't have the technology done, but you have a partner, or if you have you don't have your funding yet, but you've got your technology. I think that the startups can really get to market in a bunch of different ways, and it really depends on where their end place is in the market. So if in the end you want to be integrated into a major car company, then maybe the right path is to start with your funding, finish your technology, and go find your tier one partner that's going to get you in. But if you are a service and you don't really need the OEM, then maybe the right place to start is with your technology and then go straight into an app store or straight to a city and work on your urban mobility solution. So it really depends. And unfortunately, that's not a nice, clear answer for a young company trying to make it in the world, but it really depends.
Thank you. Jurgen, your perspective?
Yeah, I think a lot of things have been said from Mark and Liz here now. Probably to add, you have to have a certain maturity of your, let's say, tech or prototype or MVP, you could say, before you go to a let's say a tier one like us, or approach that. And at the very beginning, of course, it's important you have a USP, a differentiator. You have the right tech, you have the right team, you have probably also a pretty balanced team. You know, people understand the market, people understand the tech, so that you have all these angles basically which you look to, and you have to secure your IP somehow. Yeah, I think that is important. Check the market, check the customer, approve the tech. And the proof for me is somehow when a VC is willing to invest, yeah, then the real game starts, because then when somebody is ready to invest, it's the first, let's say, proof, and probably the second proof is then when you look for a strategic partner, yeah, out of that area which you attack, basically.
I would add that sometimes the funding comes first. So we see, especially with this, we call them Sandhill Road or the California startups, sometimes they are only interested in those companies who have the seed of an idea, and because they can get a bigger share of the company for fewer dollars. And it's before they've finished their technology, and it's before they have that first customer secured. So sometimes the funding comes first and the technology comes second. I would totally agree with Jurgen that the tier ones, they want to see a company that has funding, that has a team, that has technology that's reliable, that when you go into that 6-month process of co-development and testing, your team's going to be there and the product and the company is still going to be around 5 years later. So those are, it's a different stage of startup.
Yeah, I mean, I would add, Liz, I mean, it's always interesting. I come out of the utility industry, and I always say utilities love to be second. You know, they love to be the second deployment of a new product or service. They want to see some validation of both technical and economic performance in the marketplace. And so it's interesting, you know, that chicken and egg of how do they get pass that first, so that they can, open up their opportunity to other companies that are willing to deploy with them and procure from them.
Right. We call those fast followers.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. So let's talk about some success stories. Yeah, you've been speaking about, what you recommend, what the checklist. Jurgen, you're dealing with a lot of startups. If you can share with us some success stories that can interest our audience?
There are some success stories. I mean, as we just said, I mean, for us, a startup, when we are working with a startup, it has to have a certain maturity, let's say. Yeah? We do not want to be fast follower. We want to, it is good when we are the first, interacting with the startup when it comes to automotive application. Let's take it this way. Anyway, but this is not a must, of course. And the simple reason is that the startup and our folks in the company, our engineers, our tech guys, and also the business guys, that they are more or less dealing with the startup on an eye-to-eye level, also from technical expertise, et cetera, and the maturity, somehow the maturity or a certain maturity of the solution. Now, success stories, I mean, we are talking Israel, EcoMotion, right? I mean, we are deeply connected to Israel, really, I have to say. We have companies like Kartika, like Trafilog, like Anagog, and much more. I would say probably at the moment we are dealing with probably 10 companies in Israel alone, which we do here, more or less deep collaboration or POC engagement. Success story, I mean, for us, it's what is a success for us? Yeah. Ultimate final success is for us when we bring a technology, a business model, or a product of a startup to the roadmap of our business units. Yeah, we look a little bit strategic impact, business impact, but at the end of the day, we want to scale a solution into a product or bring them into our product portfolio or roadmap. Example. Not an Israel example on purpose, yeah, is for example the company Lea, yeah, 3D holographic display out of the valley, which we are working close together. So it's a technology which is deeply connected to our display tech. Yeah, based on glass with a nano surface on a glass and a certain software. So we really have to gear this technology into our product. It's really now very, very much a part of our product. And we saw this company, we saw this solution, we made a POC, we brought the guys, David and Pierre from David Fatah, the CEO, and Pierre, the CEO, to Babenau, to Germany, bringing them together with our display experts, and we basically laid the foundation. And we go hand in hand with the startup. That's our task basically, and finding the right spot in the corporate and the right technology partners on our side. To make that a success. We made a POC, we took a look at that, we brought it to CES, to Las Vegas, we showed it to the customer, and today we have that product on our roadmap and we approach customers together, and of course, our goal is to scale that, and the startup said, hey, Continental is a huge display supplier, the biggest display supplier for OEMs in the world. And that's our chance to scale this thing cross OEM in the world from China to US, etc. And yeah, again, success is bringing this solution to the roadmap of the business unit and generate real business.
Great example, thanks. Liz, Mark?
Well, we have, like I said, we introduce at least 500 young companies to the ecosystem in a year, and we don't we don't take a piece of the action. We don't charge a fee. We don't, if there's a deal at the end, we don't take a piece of it. So we don't follow that closely. We also have our members are very excited about the introductions, but they strictly they quickly go into, can't tell you what we're doing. They don't want, so because we have Honda and Nissan and Toyota and Ford and all of these companies in the room, they are happy to meet the companies, but they're not really happy to talk about who they're following up with. And that's unfortunate for us. What we do know is that 80% of the companies that we introduce do get follow-up, but the companies generally can't tell us who they're getting the follow-up. Occasionally, we get to hear about the financial deals because those are more public. So when Denso financially invests in someone's round, or maybe the Honda Cradle guys are doing investments, which they do all the time, we hear about those. But what we do, and exactly like Jurgen was saying, something shows up in Las Vegas and we walk through it, we go visit the Continental booth and we're like, wait, that's a technology that we introduced to Continental 2 years ago. And of course, the deal happened by two people that weren't involved with the introduction. The AutoTech Council, the people who are actually sitting in the room, these are tech scouts, they're generalists, or they're venture capitalists, and they see a good idea and then they throw it to the right group inside of Continental or inside of BMW, and then that's where the magic happens. We're just responsible for the introductions, but we have seen Goodyear taking on partners, and Denso and Conti and Ford, and it's been a great ride. We've been doing this for about 10 years, and we do have on our website quite a few examples of publicly available information if anybody's interested.
And we are working together also closely.
Yeah, Continental has a group of people in Silicon Valley, including some tech scouts, so they're active in the AutoTech Council.
So Las Vegas, this is the key.
No. It's.
No, I'm joking.
Sorry, to make things stick is really a not so easy task. You see that from the outside, but to get something into a product, also get people, let's say, excited and convinced of a technology, of a startup. You compete basically with the internal solutions which you have. We have also, at the beginning, we also had our own 3D display tech, for example. So the startups compete with internal solutions, and the not invented here syndrome and getting that stick. This takes time. It's not just a POC 3 months and then it's done.
Yeah, we know that. We know that. It's a marathon. It's not.
Yeah, and I would add that's one of the reasons that the members of the AutoTech Council include the car makers, but also include some tier ones and also include some venture capitalists, because this is a group effort, right? A startup may have a great idea and say, I'm going to go work with Honda. But in the end, what they did was they got financed by maybe Denso, and then they did a deal with Continental, and then they ended up in the Ford, or the Honda. So it really takes all of these companies working together and finding a good idea and collaborating. It's not just, otherwise, like Jurgen said, you're going to use your homegrown technology that your own engineers have developed.
Yeah, correct. I agree. Mark, any good example that you have?
Yeah, I mean, maybe it's an example in the making. We're supporting a original equipment manufacturer that's built a purpose-built medium-duty electric vocational work truck. They were at that cusp of needing to see a field deployment, and they came to the California Mobility Center seeking a deployment partner to get product into the marketplace. We were able to connect them with a fleet operator here in the Sacramento area, the local utility, and they're deploying 5 of these vocational work trucks directly into that utility's fleet, which kind of ties back to an earlier point about kind of finding a fit within the in-use customer strategy or operational need. And in this case, there was a direct fit. The utility has a very progressive carbon goal to reach carbon neutrality by 2030. And electrification of the utility fleet is a key plank of their set of strategies to accomplish that. So in this example, I mean, this is a company that, like many startups, you see them get stuck in what I call pilotitis, right? These startups are trying to get to purchase orders, and they're working with utilities or fleets or OEMs with an end goal of purchase orders. And the large incumbents, their motivation might be different. It might be more around technology validation. And you get stuck in these pilots or proof of concepts that can be 12, 18, 24 months. That the large incumbent really, its focus is maybe not on purchase orders, but more on technology validation. And so kind of that dynamic needs to be rewritten. I mean, if we're going to see rapid adoption of future mobility technologies, that process can't be an 18 or 24 month interaction with the large incumbents. It's got to be quicker, and it's got to be focused on deployments and purchase orders. So here, this example of Zeus Electric Chassis, we've been able to accelerate their path into the market through actual deployments into a fleet operations environment.
Right. Sometimes, I know that there is a sentence that says, "Fall in love with the problem, not the solution, and don't try to push it hard." So yeah, everybody talks about success. So let's talk about successful failures, okay? And actually, what I want to hear is, what's the lesson learned? If you can share with us, for the audience will learn from these mistakes. Jurgen, you want to start?
I can start probably two, three things. One mistake, in my opinion, is when a startup raises too much money. Yeah, we don't see that too much in Israel. We don't see that too much in Germany at all. We or almost not. We see that sometimes in the US. Yeah, and then they're raising huge amount of money, and at the end of the day, somebody probably, they are looking for exit, and the exit doesn't work because the business case doesn't fly, because it's simply too much money raised. That is a issue. Now another for me tipping point is when a company, a startup basically is engaged, for example, with us or other OEMs, to get from this pure investment thing or purely working with advanced development to application development and real business. As I said, when you want to be on the roadmap of a tier 1 or OEM or something like that, you have to get from this advanced development engagement with the corporate to basically to the guys which are doing the business, the segment, the business unit. That is pretty hard. So you don't see that when you look from outside, but it's always good when you are close to the solution, to the end customer. In our case, it would be OEM, right? And that hurdle is hard to jump over that. And we, as a startup organization of a corporate, we help the startup. We have the right feeling, when do we go from advanced development to application development and to the segment, basically from proof of concept to collaboration, partnering, integrating that to a product which is sellable. Yeah. That is probably failure which startups then also do. They don't push for, bring me to the right guys in your company to do business with. That is probably two things which I don't know if it's failure, but it could come to the point that you are not succeeding as a startup.
We saw it here in Drive, that if you don't find the right person, the right champion inside of the company, everything can stop.
And probably to add, for us, it is all about partnering and collaboration. We want to bring the startup operational to this point. Investment, yeah, we also invest. We see us as a strategic investor, but we are not primarily investing for a financial gain. We want to have a financial gain. We would never invest into a company which we see they will not succeed financially. But at the end of the day, we see it as operational strategic investment, very, very, very operational at the end to generate business with the solution. Yeah, it's not about the investment at the end of the day.
Yeah, sometimes investment is just I was going to say sometimes just the investment is just something that a tier one or a car company will do in order to get that startup to the next level and keep them in their supply chain. So in terms of the kind of gotchas that we've seen, and again, there are as many different ways to fail as there are ways to succeed. I was saying earlier, there's not one path. But two of the things that I've seen repeated, one is that you have a team of engineers, you've got a great technology, but that's all you have. And the engineers, when they present the idea, they're doing engineer speak, their PowerPoint is engineer speak, and they haven't done the business yet. They don't know where they haven't evaluated the market. They don't know where the hole is that they're trying to fill. When they're trying to sell into the business guys, they don't have a case. So I'd say that you make sure as a team that you have at least one person on your team who's looking at the big picture, at the market, at the future of what your company and technology can become. It's great to have a group of 5 engineers who are very excited and have a great technology, but you also need to have someone who's thinking big picture. And then the other one that happens a lot is a startup goes in many different directions because they have a technology that could do many things, right? So they're talking to Conti about the way it might work with them, and then maybe they're also talking to, if it's an IoT technology, they're talking to Deutsche Telekom, and then maybe they're also talking to the city of London. And they've got their engineers and their salespeople all with different messages and trying to fit their technology into a different piece of the puzzle. And that $10 million that they raised kind of disappears. And they haven't really set a specific. So focus, I would say, for that early stage. And certainly you can entertain other ideas if you want to bring in an investment and take that money and specifically use it for urban mobility. That's an idea, but start with your focus. And it's okay to pivot. Pivoting is actually quite good. You learn something about your customer, you learn something about your technology or your competition, and you change things a little bit. That doesn't mean you're not focused. It means that you're learning. So, but it's when you're doing many things at once and your engineers are spread too thin and your CEO is thinking about all these different things. Yeah, that's probably the number one.
Yeah, the problem is what to focus in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Mark, sorry.
I was going to add, I completely agree with Liz. That's why, technology readiness, business readiness, requirements readiness, market entry readiness, you have to pay attention to all those things. I'll give an example of a successful failure where, the company was so focused on their prototype, their commercial prototype, and felt that they had figured out what the market wanted, and they came into the pilot project and demonstration, and there was not alignment with what the end-use customer wanted. And to have not thought about that and worked through those issues earlier in the process, they lost a lot of time. They had to go back and spend a lot of time to rethink their product from the customer requirement standpoint, that just delayed them and cost them more investment dollars, used up more of their runway to get to market. So I think, to add to Liz's point, there's also the understanding the customer and the needs of the market that you're trying to deliver your product or service to, you have to pay attention to all these things. You can't just be so focused on the technology that you're not paying attention to who you're ultimately going to be selling this product to, and what the value proposition is for for that end user.
And probably
Right.
to add to that, Mark, I mean, totally right. Cannot agree more here to Liz and to Mark. I mean, we can help there also, to scale. We know the market, we know the requirements, we know how to scale, and that's on one hand side, you should not go with let's say probably one tier one, but it's good to have a strategic partner in order to understand, how do I scale, how is the market, what are the barriers, what are the hurdles. I mean, and why do startups come to companies like Conti? It's not for financing, it's not for the investment. It's for, we know the market, we can scale, we have the tech guys. Startup gets validation, through a company like Conti or other bigger company. And also when we invest, of course, it's a kind of proof, to the outside world also. What I also would recommend to prevent failures in that phase, probably in an A or B kind of phase, is we are also looking who is in the advisory board. Are people in the advisory board which have industry expertise in that specific field? Liz, you mentioned IoT, you mentioned automotive, you mentioned cities, totally different thing. A young company can never ever understand these three different markets and the players in the market and all that. So also it's nice to have certain verticals. It's probably right to have one focus in one vertical, and then have advisors or people in hand which you can trust, which help you, which have the connections, which understands this market. When we see a very interesting startup and we engage with this startup and probably also plan to invest in this startup, we really look for these advisors. And when they don't have these advisors on board, we help them or we recommend, and we do that through our network, to get the right advisors on board.
I can add that the AutoTech Council, like I said, we look at hundreds of young companies each year. Not all of them are at this level of they're ready to pitch their technology or their product, right? Some of them very smartly will come into the AutoTech Council. They'll talk to, at one time, we'll have 100 different people in the room from representing the entire industry. And all these startups want to do is ask questions. Like, they don't know what the market is, and they've said, listen, I've just raised my $2 million. I have a technology that does, so-and-so security. What are you looking for? What are the gaps in your technology portfolio, and how would you work with a company like me? Which is a fantastic way to use this community, which is the AutoTech Council. It's true that these members are there to look for technology and to find new partners, but they're also there to support the startups. And it may be money, but it also may just be advice, like Jurgen's saying, a specific advisor, or just tap into this community of experts who've done and seen a lot of this information and these success stories in the past. Yeah. So if anyone's listening to this and they're at that stage, you're welcome to reach out.
Yeah, I mean, Liz, that's
great, guys. So we ran out of time. I'm sorry, I have 5 more questions for you guys. We can spend all night, but we all need to go, and we have only 30 minutes for this panel. Great points. I want to thank you all from sharing your knowledge and your experience. And I hope to see you soon in Israel, and I hope to come and visit you also. It's important. And thank you very much, Liz, Jurgen, and Mark. And have a great day. And
Thank you.
I hope you keep
Thanks for having
safe,
us.
and thank you very much, guys.